Right now at 5, crews in Joplin work to repair a damaged gas line, which led to a check of dozens of homes.
And we had those strong to severe thunderstorms this morning. More showers and storms on the way. Look at your forecast coming up.
Plus, USD 250 School District serves up some good news for parents and students with the announcement of free meals.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Elise Snowy.
I'm Chris Warner. It's Wednesday. Now it's June the 18th.
Certainly is.
It is June the 18th. Okay. And so, of course, Doug Hetty, myself here this morning. Thankfully, in a way, we did get a little lucky with those storms.
Right.
It's almost as if they ran into a brick wall. But we did run into some pretty heavy rain. We did have a lot of lightning. We did have some power outages. And some very gusty winds with the storms this morning, and we have more on the way in the next, let's see, it's 5 o'clock, next 4 hours or so.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to take a look outside, though. First, with downtown Pittsburgh, the roads are still wet. The rain's starting to wrap up across most of the area right now. MoDOT camera 20th and range line looking back toward the east toward Duquesne, which until about 10 minutes ago, there were no lights down through here because, again, we have had some power outages from the storms we had early this morning. This is all that's left. This activity here that's surging off to the north and east is part of that line that did bring some 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts near the Tulsa area and actually left damage behind at the Promenade Mall, and I'm sure there's other damage reports down in that area. So what we have right now is these showers, they are exiting. This activity is clearing out. And what's going to happen, or the expectation, is we're going to see new development take place out in north central Oklahoma, north of Oklahoma City, that will eventually slide up I-44 and get into the southern parts of our area. So here's a look at the reports we have. So at this point, we have the one wind damage report. It was a tree down on Highway 10 in Ottawa County. We did have a radar-confirmed tornado just to the west of Delaware County. It may have made it just barely into Delaware County, but the debris signature on radar broke up pretty quickly to the west of Bull Hollow. And then down south of that, another radar-confirmed tornado near the Tahlequah area. So there's that. And all these orange circles, those are wind damage reports, and the green ones are just some of those high wind gusts, the severe wind gusts that we got. So again, all things considered, with how things were shaping up for these storms, it wasn't nearly as bad in our area as it could have been. The severe threat shifted a little further south than expected. That kind of kept us out of some of the worst winds out there because, again, they got pretty nasty. However, so we head through the morning, early afternoon. We do have an isolated tornado risk, isolated to scattered hail and wind risk. Now, yesterday, those scattered risks, the yellow lines, were up to about this point. They have shifted a little further south and east, which is also good news, but we still have that chance for an additional strong or severe thunderstorm. And those are expected to begin developing, again, north of Oklahoma City, sometime around 8, 9 o'clock this morning. And then they'll gradually begin to lift to the northeast. So here we are, stopping the future track a little earlier than usual. This is 10 a.m. and here come some of those storms. Now, not all of them necessarily will be strong or severe, but they're going to have that capability, especially along and south of I-44. As we head about noon, you can see the greater concentrations again along and south of I-44. And then those will clear out, and we could get an isolated shower or storm late evening, but no severe weather is expected with that, and this is a very isolated and conditional risk there. We do have to see how the severe threat plays out since the storms did lose intensity as they rolled into here. We're going to keep an eye on them and see if there's any changes with our severe weather outlook. Not expecting anything crazy, but still, we'll keep an eye on everything for you. 65 in both Joplin and Pittsburgh right now. Temperatures around the region get fairly mild. Temperatures haven't really moved all that much overnight. We're in the mid to upper 60s. Stockton, one of the warmer spots out there, sitting at 69 this morning. Most of us are right at 65, and temperatures have been pretty steady. We're going to eventually warm back into the upper 70s, and we'll actually reach late day highs into the low 80s. We'll have those scattered thunderstorm chances. Again, best chances along and south of I-44, and then those chances begin to dwindle and kind of wrap up as we head later into the evening. West winds, though, today gusting at about 25 miles an hour. Now, skies will clear out overnight tonight and into our Thursday, and then Mother Nature cranks the thermostat way up heading into the weekend. Details on all of that for you here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, Chris, thanks. Yesterday afternoon, Joplin crews responded to a significant gas leak after a construction contractor hit a gas line near the intersection of Chris Lane and Connecticut, just north of 17th Street. Aspire gas crews turned off the gas and worked to repair the leak. Joplin police closed Connecticut from 15th to 20th Street as a precaution while firefighters checked natural gas levels in about 100 homes in the area.
So there was gas that was getting its way into the wastewater sewer system, and that was part of the reason why we were checking these houses, was to make sure that natural gas was not leaking through the sewer lines to get into homes.
Now, one home was evacuated due to gas blowing in through open windows. Now, those residents have since been cleared to return. Officials report no injuries related to the gas leak. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. Well, if you have a student attending a USD 250 school in Pittsburgh, you won't have to worry about feeding them during school hours. This district is participating in a federally funded program called Community Eligibility Provision. Now, the program allows all students to have free breakfast, lunch, and after-school snacks regardless of household income.
All of the teachers report back that since we started breakfast in the classroom and almost all of our children are eating breakfast at school, they have seen better behavior, they have seen more participation, they've seen better academic scores. It's just good for everyone.
The CEP will begin in the fall of this year. Faculty are currently working on ways to make the process run smoothly. One area organization says there's a need for more foster families in southeast Kansas. According to the latest data from the Kansas Department for Children and Families, in southeast Kansas, there's an average of 632 children placed out of their homes. More than 47% of those children were placed in a foster home. The Family Initiative, known as TFI, is a nonprofit that works with and provides resources for area foster families. Staff say they are seeing a need for more foster families in southeast Kansas for area children entering the system. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes coming up on the KOAM Morning News. President Trump faces a critical choice on joining Israel against Iran as pressure mounts from allies and the conflict escalates. And we're tracking rain chances for today. We'll have what to expect with Chris Warner in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Well, topping Nation Watch this morning, a major decision for President Trump. Sources say he's considering whether the U.S. should join Israel in strikes against Iran's nuclear sites in an effort to stop Iran from building a nuclear weapon. Yesterday, the president claimed control over Iran's skies. Meanwhile, even some of his strongest allies in Congress are calling for restraint as the ongoing strikes have killed hundreds in Israel and Iran. Jared Hill has more from New York.
Day 6 of the Israel-Iran conflict, and sources tell CBS News President Donald Trump is weighing whether the U.S. should join Israel's strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. A major focus, the deeply buried Fordow facility.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple.
Yesterday, the president met with his national security team in the Situation Room. The same day, he posted on social media, quote, "We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran," and praised U.S.-made defense systems. To date, Trump administration officials have said the U.S. is not involved in Israel's attacks, though the U.S. has been helping Israel fend off Iranian counterstrikes. Israel's military says it struck a centrifuge production site as well as several weapons production sites in Iran overnight. Meanwhile, sirens blared as explosions blasted over Israel, the country's Iron Dome intercepting Iranian missiles. Iran's supreme leader has vowed to show no mercy. President Trump, in a social media post, offered a direct warning, writing the U.S. knows where the supreme leader is hiding, calling him an easy target, though adding, "We are not going to take him out, at least for now." On Capitol Hill,
I'm hoping the president will not get involved with the war.
lawmakers from both parties are now pushing to vote on measures limiting President Trump's ability to order strikes on Iran. Jared Hill, CBS News.
The U.S. State Department yesterday announced the creation of a Middle East task force to assist and support U.S. citizens in diplomatic missions in the region. The agency has issued do not travel warnings for Israel and Iran. Well, still to come, a new report from the CDC reveals the top health risk facing adults over 85. Plus, Chris returns with another look at your Wednesday forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Well, posing for pics in an Italian art museum turned disastrous when a tourist ended up crushing a crystal-encrusted chair and then flew the coop. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Watch a tourist break a chair nicknamed Van Gogh, causing a big uh-oh in an Italian art museum. A statement shared by the Palazzo Maffei Museum in Italy says a pair of tourists were admiring Nicola Bola's so-called Van Gogh chair, a delicate piece covered in Swarovski crystals. The visitors were taking turns taking pics when one decided to strike a sitting pose over the chair and ended up crushing the fragile work. The unidentified pair then quickly fled the exhibit, leaving the crumpled crystal chair behind. In a statement, officials called it an art museum's worst nightmare, but said, thankfully, restorers were able to fix the piece, returning it to its glittering former glory. The museum is now sharing the cautionary tale, asking visitors to treat all exhibits with care, reminding them that art is meant to be admired, but always respected. And from a seemingly accidental crushing of property to a very deliberate one, done to send a very clear message to law-breaking motorists. Officials with the New York City Mayor's Office and the NYPD gathered on Staten Island to destroy hundreds of illegal mopeds and scooters they say were part of thousands of illegal vehicles that have been impounded for sporting untraceable fraudulent license plates or being used in alleged crimes. Officials' messaging wasn't exactly subtle. Using a massive construction bulldozer, the illegal so-called ghost vehicles were sent right to the grave, with the Mayor's Office proclaiming, when it comes to public safety, we're not just enforcing the law, we're literally crushing it. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Let's head over now to Chris for a quick look at your forecast.
Still have some lingering showers out there from our morning thunderstorm chances. However, we will dry out briefly before we have an opportunity for additional shower and thunderstorm chances for at least some of us as we head through the mid-morning hours. Another full look at your forecast and a look at what we went through this morning when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, 5:20 now on this Wednesday morning. And of course, we started our day very loud and with a lot of rain out there and gusty winds. But again, the storms, the worst of it stayed further to the south, and we kind of lucked out on not getting as bad. We still had issues. We still had the heavy rain. We still had plenty of lightning. We still had the gusty winds. And on top of all that, we had some power outages. We've had at least a damage report so far. That was down in Ottawa County. Nothing significant there, but still, it could have been a lot worse based on what the expectations were with these storms, and had they stayed a little further to the north, it might have been. But we're not quite out of the woods with the showers and thunderstorms just yet. We've got one more round we've got to get through, at least for some of us today, before we do eventually start to clear on out. So here's downtown Pittsburgh, our camera there. Of course, the roads are wet. Rain is starting to wrap up. We got some showers out there here and there. Again, MoDOT camera, 20th and Range Line in Joplin, looking back to the east along 20th Street. Again, earlier this morning, and for a good portion of this morning, none of these lights were on off to the east. So that's what I've talked about too, is we've had some power outages out there. Some folks may still be without power, but right now we're in a great position to kind of get out there, assess, and get things taken care of, because we've just got these light showers. We're not even getting any thunderstorm activity with what we have left out there. Just some moderate showers along and south of I-44 and a few light showers north of that for some of us. Otherwise, we are, again, dry. Now, we got thunderstorms to our south, and that's where they're headed. And then this is what's left of what came through the area this morning, along with some of the activity. It's down to the south. You can see the rest of that line as it dove through. It just really fell apart pretty quickly. Now, there's new development taking place right around the Oklahoma City metro area. And eventually, the expectation on model data, at least how it's been through the morning so far, it's been pretty consistent. New development will continue to take place around the Oklahoma City area and will eventually begin to make a northeasterly turn into our neck of the woods. Now, how far north of I-44 it goes is somewhat in question, so I want to keep an eye on it. And how much recovery takes place in our area before this happens is another factor in whether or not we'll see more widespread severe weather or if the severe chances will be more isolated as we head into the next couple of hours. So here's that report so far. This is again out of Ottawa County, Highway 10, County Road 652. There's a tree down blocking a lane. That was earlier this morning with that. Then we had, of course, the one thing that just really caught some attention for a little bit is a quick spin-up tornado. And that's what these were. We had a couple of quick spin-up tornadoes. This one made it partially in to southwestern Delaware County before the debris signature on radar just kind of fizzled apart just to the west of Bull Hollow. Was only on the ground, looking back at the radar data at that time, it was only, though let me rephrase that, the debris signature was only on radar for about 5 minutes before it disappeared. It appeared and then it was gone again. And there was another one that was down south near the Tahlequah area. That debris signature hung around a little longer and tracked right along the north side of Tahlequah. And so they've got some damage reports down there, damage around the Tulsa area, and those green circles that you see out here into Nowata and Washington counties, stretching up into Montgomery County. Those are simply measured wind gusts. And then we had some hail reports out there in Washington County as well. That's the other thing. We kind of got lucky on that. Significant hail, not a major issue. But you notice all those reports to the south. As we told you, yesterday the expectation was that line of storms was going to be a little further to the north, but it stayed further to the south. Now, storms still rolled through southeast Kansas, but the more intense portion stayed to our south. Here's what we've got as of this point for mid-morning, so in the next 2 or 3 hours. We do have an isolated tornado risk along and south of I-44. And then we have the isolated to scattered hail and wind risk. Now, yesterday, the scattered, or the yellow zone here, was back up to this point with the isolated back behind that. So it's been pushed to the south and east. But again, we've got to see, since those storms this morning did not take the path that was expected and fizzled out very quickly as they approached really the 69 corridor, we want to see whether or not we get any significant energy returns in our area as we head into the afternoon. Not saying we will, it's just something we want to watch because that could change this. But at least right now, our severe threat into the morning has been reduced a bit for mid-morning. So here we are at 10 a.m. Again, storms should start firing again 9 o'clock north of Oklahoma City. By about 10 or so, they start lifting into the area. Now, right now, Future Track's keeping them really right along and south of I-44 with an isolated shower storm outside of that. So we'll keep an eye on these through the morning. So between about 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., that's going to be our window for any strong storms. Then an isolated shower, pop-up thunderstorm will be possible as we head into the evening. After that, we are done, and we're not expecting any severe weather with the activity later this evening, and it'll be fairly isolated. All right, upper 60s to start our day, low 70s by 11 o'clock this morning. Our highs today, late day highs into the upper 70s and low 80s, west winds gusting to 25. Again, an isolated shower storm through the late evening, then we're done. Partly cloudy overnight, winds will be calm, back to the mid 60s. Then the heat comes back, upper 80s tomorrow, low to even maybe mid 90s, rolling into this weekend, and starting by Friday, we could start seeing those heat index values in that 100 to 105 degree range. So do keep that in mind if you got any weekend plans. And then we're getting to that time of the year too, where some isolated pop-up storms may be possible by next week. Let's check your forecast. We're going to send it over to Elise with Health Watch.
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, a new report shows hypertension, also known as high blood pressure, is the most common chronic condition for adults 85 and older. The CDC data estimates more than 2/3 of adults over 85 have high blood pressure. The report also found more than half of adults over 85 suffer from arthritis, and nearly half have high cholesterol. Well, cannabis use could potentially double the risk of death from cardiovascular disease. New research published in the journal Heart showed significantly increased risks for stroke and sudden reduced or blocked blood flow to the heart among cannabis users. Use of cannabis has soared over the past decade as more and more states legalize use. And the higher someone's body mass index, the greater their risk for complications after bariatric weight loss surgery. That's according to research being presented at the annual meeting of the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. The study found the rate of complications from the weight loss surgery rose an average of 5% for people with a higher BMI. The greatest risk for complications are for patients with a BMI over 50, but researchers add the risks are still relatively low. That's a look at Health Watch this morning. We'll be right back. Right now at 5:30, a Joplin Science Center serves up an annual Thanksgiving tradition.
And we've got things calming down across the area. More rain chances on the way, some thunderstorm chances on the way this morning again. I'll look at your forecast coming up.
Plus, Bright Futures Joplin celebrates 15 years of helping kids with food, clothing, and shelter. We'll take you to the party.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Elise Snowy.
And I'm Chris Warner. It's Wednesday. It is June the 18th. And of course, we had strong to severe thunderstorms to start our day. And we could have a few additional strong to potentially severe storms for some of us this morning. And then we're going to get a break. The thing is, we're going to start to miss some of this rain, or at least the cloud cover, because it's really going to start to heat up this weekend. But we got to get through a few more rounds of rain first. Let's start with that look outside downtown Pittsburgh. Of course, roadways are wet. We got quite a bit of rainfall this morning. Even though not everyone saw the severe weather, we still got some pretty hefty rain out there. MoDOT Camera 20th and Rangeline also looking pretty good this morning, but still, of course, on the wet side. However, we are limited in what kind of rain we have left. There's some showers south of I-44. We've got one into eastern Barton County, and then we've got a few up north in Bates County and stretching over to Lynn County in southeast Kansas. Not much going on at this point, which is good because I know I said it, but really, we really lucked out in our area because the line of storms that rolled through was initially, what we talked about yesterday, expected to take a more northerly track and kind of ride the Kansas-Oklahoma state line. And it didn't. It intensified south and stayed that way. While we did get some strong to severe thunderstorms up in our area, the worst of it stayed to our south, and it could have been a lot worse for us because Tulsa Airport, or at least Tulsa area, they measured 70, 80, 90, even upwards of 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, similar to what we saw in Wichita yesterday morning. And then, of course, we did have a couple of at least radar-confirmed spin-up tornadoes. Now, this one moved into Delaware County early this morning. Again, checking back, it was a radar confirmed. So that debris tracker we use, the correlation coefficients, its fancy name, but it showed up on the debris tracker crossing into Delaware County from Mays County. It was there 5 minutes or so, and then the debris signature just completely fell apart west of Bull Hollow. There was another one, though, south of that area down toward Tahlequah. That one was there. The debris signature, at least, was there a little longer before it dissipated as well. So thankfully, nothing major, but nonetheless, still some damage reports coming in. And we had a tree down in Ottawa County. Of course, we had a number of power outages this morning as well. And I'm sure electric crews are out there working on those, getting that taken care of. Now, in the next couple 3 hours, we're going to start to see new development north of the Oklahoma City metro. It will eventually roll northeast into our area and bring us these risks: the isolated tornado risk, and then the isolated to scattered wind and hail risks out there. Now, yesterday, the scattered risk was much further back to the northwest, so it's been shifted a little further southeast. But we also have to see now with those storms, they did not get as intense as we were expecting up here. They did not overspread as much of the area as we were expecting. So we just have to see if that allows us to get more energy in place in the next 3 or 4 hours in our area, or if things just kind of keep the status quo. And if it does, it will limit the storms and just how severe they could get. So about 9, 10 o'clock, they start rolling up I-44. Greatest chances, again, along and south of I-44 at this point. Could get an isolated shower storm outside of that, north of that that point through the evening, but we're not anticipating anything significant, and these storms are a very low chance at that, but they are still at least showing up, so we'll keep an eye on those as well. 65, Joplin and Pittsburgh. Quick look at those temperatures around the area. Just kind of hovering for most of us, mid to upper 60s. A lot of 65s out there, and we're just kind of sitting at that point. We will eventually warm up. We're going to have evening highs, or late afternoon, early evening highs into the low 80s. Ahead of that, just hanging out in the 70s. Again, some scattered storm chances here and there, and then those will begin to come to a close late this evening. West winds gusting to 25. We're going to have another full lecture forecast, not just talk about our storms today. We're also going to talk about the heat that's on the way this weekend here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, Chris, thanks. We'll see you soon. Well, a Thanksgiving tradition in Joplin enters a new chapter. The Schroeder Family Explorium announced yesterday morning it has acquired the annual Joplin Turkey Trot presented by Freeman Health System. The event will still feature a 5K and 1 mile fun run on Thanksgiving morning, but it will now serve as a fundraiser for the Explorium's STEAM education programs. Organizers say proceeds will help fund hands-on exhibits, outreach, and scholarships. And Bright Futures Joplin celebrated their 15th birthday yesterday with a ribbon cutting. The event was held at Joplin School's Memorial Education Center in the recently renovated cafeteria. Bright Futures Joplin helps students in need by providing clothing, food, and shelter so they can focus on learning. The Columbus Public Library held a groovy day for some area kids. As KOAM photojournalist Ty Parks shows us, the historic library invited the kids to make tie-dye shirts.
So put a lot on there. You got to put a lot on there. You got to.
During the summer, there's a lot of kids that don't have a lot of activities. There are different programs that are available for them, but not all of them can participate. This is free to all of the children in the area. Just give them something to do, and it's something that they can do even after this event. It's a pretty simple process. Once they learn that, it's available to them at all times.
If you don't care if your hands get colored, most people don't seem to. And I'm probably going to help you because your mom will shoot me if you get this on your...
Lauren, our librarian, she plans all of the activities, and then different people on the board and different community people come and help do the activities. So this was selected by our librarian.
Add some over here next, and then what? Just
add some purple in it. Okay.
Just to have fun. It's just a fun process, and give them a little color theory. If they get colors mixed together, you know, you have your primary colors, you can make secondary colors and intermediate colors. So it's a learning experience and just learning the process, and again, just to have fun. So if you'll follow the Columbus Public Library on Facebook, there's all kinds of events year-round that the library does here.
Let's look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. The Trump administration is expected to grant TikTok another extension sometime this week. Plus, Amazon has announced its Prime Day dates. We'll have the details. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, TikTokers can breathe another sigh of relief. The White House says President Donald Trump will sign an order delaying the enforcement of the bipartisan law that would effectively ban the video sharing platform in the U.S. The law requires TikTok to separate from Chinese parent company ByteDance, though so far a deal has been elusive. Now, this is the third time that the Trump administration has granted TikTok an extension. Well, more Americans are pulling back on shopping. The latest Commerce Department report shows that retail sales fell 0.9% last month. Now, that's a bigger drop than expected. Vehicle sales in particular took a hit in May following a big surge in purchases earlier this year as consumers tried to get ahead of President Trump's 25% foreign auto tariffs. But Amazon is hoping to turn some of those numbers around. The e-commerce giant has announced its Prime Day date or dates spanning from July 8th to July 11th. This is Amazon's 10th year doing the Black Friday-like summer sales event on electronics, clothing, and other products. It's also the first time the event will be 4 days long. Amazon says last year was its biggest Prime Day yet, with more than 200 million items sold by independent sellers in 2 days. That's a look at Consumer Watch this morning. Here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, we've got the skies, again, for some of us clearing. Rain's beginning to wind down for now, and then we'll see additional shower and thunderstorm chances build in. We're going to have another full look at your forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Well, just a day after reports of a pause on immigration raids on farms, there's word of a possible reversal in that decision. Details in today's Ag Day Minute.
I'm Clinton Griffiths with today's Ag Day Minute. A possible reversal in guidance when it comes to immigration raids on farms and ranches. Now, the Washington Post late Monday, citing two sources, it says they're familiar with a phone call to leaders with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, saying the leaders were told agents must continue conducting workforce site immigration raids on places including agricultural businesses. The reversal coming after reports the Trump administration had told ICE to largely pause immigration raids at farms, hotels, and restaurants. With planning mostly done, USDA is continuing to check on crop conditions, putting the corn crop at 72% good to excellent. Now that's up 1% from last week. For soybeans, 66% is rated good to excellent. That's actually down 2% from a week ago. There's a new addition to the Indiana State Fair that puts a spotlight on pork. This is the Hog and Slaw Indiana Pork, announcing the sandwich as the official taste of the fair for this year's state fair. It says it's a mouth-watering pulled pork sandwich topped with creamy coleslaw and served on a soft bun. The group says the result is a flavor-packed sandwich that is equal parts comfort food and delicious. The Hog and Slaw will be available exclusively at the Indiana State Fair, running August 1st through the 17th in Indianapolis. For more Ag News, watch Ag Day weekdays on the station or get updates over at agweb.com.
Let's head for now to Chris for a full look at your forecast.
Yeah, of course, we had the strong to severe thunderstorms pushing through the area this morning, and again, the worst of it stayed to our south, but we still got some heavy rain, a lot of lightning, had some power outages, had some wind gusts out there, and we have more shower and storm chances on the way in the next about 4 hours, I would say. All right, so here's the Skywatch Storm Tracker as it stands right now. We still have some showers south of I-44. Again, slowly pushing out of the area. We got this shower here and a couple up in the far northern portion of our region. That is it at this point. Now, the worst of the activity is now this section, because this whole line kind of split in half. This section is diving almost north now, and then the main line that did leave behind some damage, caused some other issues, spawned a couple of those radar-indicated tornadoes. It is really falling apart. Like, it is almost non-existent. Another line tried to get going behind it, did not. Then we've got this activity stretching back toward Oklahoma City. Right now, not a concern for us. However, the expectations are new thunderstorm development will start taking place in about the next 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, north of Oklahoma City, or very close to. And as it does, it will begin to rotate through, kind of following that path, and start turning back northeast along I-44. Here's a quick look at what we did see in our area. Again, we have this wind damage report. It was a tree down on Highway 10, County Road 652. This was quite some time ago, but just a heads up. Then we also had some just wind reports. That's what those green circles are. Severe wind reports. Had some damage far western Washington County, some hail in the northern portions. And then, of course, the other thing were the two radar-confirmed tornadoes. One of them tried to make its way into parts of Delaware County. The debris signature, that's the only way we knew that these tornadoes were on the ground, was the radar-indicated debris signature, the debris tracker we use, or that thing, the correlation coefficient you see. That's how we saw it. This one was only out visible for about 5 minutes on radar, crossed into parts of Delaware County, and the debris signature just completely dissipated just west of Bull Hollow. Then the one down near Tahlequah has resulted in some damage down there. It's been called in near the Tahlequah area. It was visible on radar, the debris signature at least, a little longer than this one, but still was a short track. Then we've got damage reports in Tulsa, and that's from those straight line winds. And again, the worst of that activity from overnight stayed to our south. If it had stayed north as expected, some of those reports, that's what we'd be talking about this morning right now up here But again, the worst stayed south. So that can and probably will have an impact on our storms today. The question is what kind of impact, because the storms, as they rolled in, they began to die out. We still had severe thunderstorm warnings, and I'm not saying we didn't have some rough storms this morning, but the severe threat dropped very quickly, and these storms began to die very quickly, really, as they approached the Highway 69 corridor. So that leaves the question, do we have some energy left over as we head into the mid-morning hours, or were they able to suck up some of that energy? If they were, then this stands as it is. We do have the severe threat by mid-morning. It's an isolated tornado risk. And then we have the isolated to scattered hail and wind risk. Now, bear in mind, too, on these outlooks yesterday, that scattered was way further northwest. So we're going to have to see what kind of impact the storms we got this morning are going to have on the storms that are expected later this morning, because it's also going to have an impact on whether or not they stay confined right here or if they try and, develop a little further to the north. So that's what we've got to keep an eye on. So again, in the next couple of hours, they'll start developing out by OKC, and they're going to roll up the turnpike. Here they are around 10 a.m., starting to enter northeastern Oklahoma and northwestern Arkansas. By noon, they continue to lift off to the northeast. Future track right now still keeping them along and south of I-44 for the greater chances of storms. And then by about 1, 2 o'clock, the bulk of these are gone. Then an isolated shower or storm may be possible after that through about 10 o'clock. And then those fizzle out. They go away. Skies will begin to clear out overnight. Our Thursday looking fantastic. It's going to start to heat up, though, with all that extra sunshine, just a few clouds. We're back into the upper 80s. And as we head into Friday, temperatures will continue to climb. We're starting Friday, upper 60s, low 70s already. Just a couple of clouds maybe here or there, and temperatures easily climbing with a lot more low 90s out there. And Friday kicks off that point as we start to see heat index values go from that 100 to 105 range heading into the weekend. So do keep that in mind if you're heading out. Great weekend to go to the pool, but you want to make sure you're taking precautions as well if you're outside. So we'll keep an eye on the storm chances through the morning. Upper 60s by 8, low 70s by 11 o'clock this morning. Our highs today, we really aren't expected to hit them until the late afternoon, but we will eventually reach the low 80s for most of us. We'll have those west winds gusting upwards of 25, back down to the mid 60s tonight. Once we're done with the showers and storms, we're done. And we're also settling into summertime. It gets hazy, it gets hot, it gets humid. We get those little isolated pop-up storms. So that's what we have rolling into next week, is a stray storm here or there, and otherwise just temperatures climbing into the low 90s. That is a check of your forecast. We're going to send it over to Elise now with morning sports.
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, today in sports, the Missouri Baseball Coaches Association releases its all-state teams for the spring 2025 season early this week, and they feature 17 of our local players. Now we'll start in Class 2. Trayton Richard from Jasper High School is on the first team All-State as a designated hitter, and he'll be back next year for his senior season. And a couple of New Heights Cougars make the list as well, each just graduated this spring. Pitcher Smoke Azell and infielder Jace Walker, who's playing baseball at Evangel University next year. In Class 3, only one of our local players receives All-State honors. That's Grady Bentley as a designated hitter. He just finished his junior year at Diamond High School. Class 4 features quite a few of our local athletes. Aurora infielder Sean Creasy is the lone first-teamer after a stellar sophomore season with the Hound Dogs. The second team has a couple of teammates from Seneca, pitcher Jagger Wilson and designated hitter Drew Sherwood, who will both be back with the Indians next year. Nevada infielder Caden Klump is also on the second team All-State, and 3 more receive honorable mentions. East Newton infielder Braden Volnu, Monette and outfielder Aiden Clapper, and Aurora outfielder Memphis Moonahan, who was just a freshman this spring. In Class 5, Webb City grad and future Missouri Southern Lion Andrew Young is on the first team All-State as an outfielder. Now about this from Carl Junction. 3 Bulldogs receive All-State honors. Brody Pant is on the second team as an infielder. Then Cooper Vedix and Deacon Endicott both get honorable mentions as designated hitters. All 3 of them were juniors this year, so they'll be back at CJ next season. Closing out with Class 6, Joplin rising senior Brecken Green is on the first team as a pitcher, and Neosho Wildcat Brody Crane makes the second team as a pitcher. Both of them just wrapped up their junior years this spring and will be seniors next year. That's a look at sports. We'll be right back. Well, some people in their 20s and 30s are ditching technology-driven hobbies for some old-fashioned fun. A Wall Street Journal report says young Americans are swapping constant cell phone use and doom scrolling for pastimes dubbed as grandma hobbies. They're now choosing knitting, crocheting, scrapbooking, baking, crafting, and reading. People partaking in grandma hobbies say they were searching for ways to take a break from technology. E-commerce giant Shopify says cross-stitch pattern sales rose 89% last month compared to the same time last year. The survey also found among Gen Z participants, 86% considered themselves crafters, while 30% say they've taken an arts and crafts class.
I'm not much of a crafter or an artist by any means. Now, my wife, she paints. She does paintings and stuff, and the kids, they draw stuff. I used to. I don't do that anymore. But it's important sometimes to put the phone down and walk away. And I mean, in this day and age, it's so hard. I do miss, like, when I was growing up in the 90s, you know, we went outside. We didn't have technology. We didn't have reasons to stay inside. And now, like, there's no reason to go outside almost. Oh, and well, at least with these thunderstorm chances, probably a good reason to stay inside for a bit. We're going to be into the upper 60s by 8, low 70s by 11. Again, keeping an eye on that possibility of some new thunderstorm development by mid-morning. If it happens, some of them could be strong, low-grade severe, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Low 80s for our highs, but we won't actually reach them until late afternoon, early evening. Then we'll be back down to the mid-60s tonight. Isolated shower storm possible, most of us dry. Mid-60s, as I mentioned, overnight. Heat is on, though, heading into the weekend. Low 90s, heat index values 100 to 105. Got another look at your forecast and more of the KOAM Morning News coming up.